Alrighty, we are back. Your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly. It's episode number 510, and we are recording live on March 30th. Yes, it is almost April, and it's spring, and it's sunny, it's warm, there's flowers popping up, and baseball season is about to start. Brianna, how are you?
I am good. I am surviving in this yellow green pollen world we have here in Atlanta. It's a little miserable right now. Everybody's like sneezing and trying to stay indoors when it might be beautiful and sunny outside and we want to go out, but yeah, we're all just like, you know, this is not the time you want to be sneezing around other people, really. So anyways, but we're good, and yes, like you said, lots of things happening. Some people just celebrated Passover. Easter's right around the corner. For those that celebrate those things. And, it's I think people are feeling encouraged and hopeful and new beginnings, spring cleaning, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Spring cleaning, and yeah, it's nice that it's getting a bit warmer and longer days of sunshine and all of that. So, and vaccines and everything. So, all good. Well, let's jump into it. Speaking of spring and looking forward, you can kick us off with a story about an app about the future.
Yeah, this is called Tomorrow app. I think it's actually coming out of Atlanta.
It is.
Not a surprise there, but it's spelled TMR capital O. And basically, this is facilitating the commerce of creative services. So, those who are looking for freelancers and freelancers that are looking for work. So, just kind of connecting people. Think of it as like a dating app for freelancers, right? So, helping make those connections. And this is created by music mogul Don Cannon and his partner Kayla Shelton. So, this is, interesting because they are really just, trying to facilitate a need that's in the market. We've seen the freelance industry continue to grow probably over the past like 10 years, right? And this is no different. So they also launched something called Start Engine campaign, which if you know of like crowdfunding. And so if you're interested in investing, that is, want to own a portion of the company, the buy-ins are pretty low. So it's something you can certainly check out on Start Engine. And so they're building out some new platform initiatives as well that they are referencing. So later they're talking about launching an instant book feature, which would basically allow you could book somebody nearby based on location, current availability, proximity, drive time, all those different things. And then later this year, they're looking at launching a debit card, which would enable their freelancers to get paid just as soon as you finish the job, which is really great. So instant book and debit card for quick pay. So basically, they're providing this interface. It's allowing creatives to promote their talents, whether that's music or even just design services, for example. And then they can find, companies can find what they're looking for as far as fit. So think of like probably an elevated version of Fiverr, right? And they're offering this quick 48-hour payout typically. So just ensuring that payment for services, location-based opportunities. Obviously, we're talking about that here since it's a location-based, offering here, and then they can book for local, in person, as well as remote workers. So this reminds me of another company that I was familiar with, and some friends of mine founded probably I don't know, I want to say like 9, 10 years ago here in Atlanta as well, is called a Fix Music. And this was solely focused on music. And so two guys that came out of the music industry, as entrepreneurs, one with more of a legal background and the other with a music background, music management background, were taking, kind of those who don't have a label, but starting up these, music, you can upload your music there and you can sort and filter all the music that's there. And then you can have a license to use it in the, application, whether that's a movie or your website or a commercial or whatever it may be. And you have the rights to do that right there, like the legal agreement and contract in hand, you can check out in like 5 minutes. But what I like about this Tomorrow is like you're talking about beyond music and just looking at creatives as a whole, and also having more of like a is that you?
No.
Oh, that must be me. Sorry. Anyways, hang on. So anyways, Slack call on the other computer. Um, yeah, so I like that this is connecting more than just the music. And then I also like that you can actually put out kind of this job description that you're looking for and connecting with people. So this is cool. And of course I love that it's coming out of Atlanta.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I think it's super cool, and I think it's very timely. I think we're coming out of the pandemic. There's so many people out of work. That in particular this industry, the live entertainment industry, the music industry, all creative industries, have really suffered. Obviously, we're not going out to the movie theater. We're not going out to watch live concerts and these kinds of things. And I think a lot of that, a lot of the workers, a lot of the creators in that industry are suffering and out of work, looking for work, available to do stuff and lend their talents. And I think creating a marketplace like this, essentially, that can kind of pair people up and find those matches, I think is brilliant. It's not a new concept. I mean, obviously we've had platforms in our location-based sort of matching up ecosystem for a while, TaskRabbit, Zarly, and so on and so forth. Um, but as you say, I think applying this to this industry sector and to the music and film and creative community, I think is really important. And I like that they've kind of thought through the payments pieces and facilitating the transactions. And because to me then it's not just about, hey, we're bridging the gap here and matching people up. They're finding ways to monetize right from the beginning and facilitate and make that really really easy and transactional. So I'm excited about it. I was, as you were talking, I was thinking about a friend of mine, Rain Maida, who's lead singer of a band called Our Lady Peace. He's been doing a lot of sort of technology startup work in and around music. He's got a new startup called Sing, which is about artists, musicians, trying to protect their IP around what they're creating in a digital, secure way, blockchain and so on. And I think there's a lot of innovation going on in this industry right now. As people are trying to find new ways to inject themselves into it and to kind of grow. So I'm excited about it. I like it. It's a cool platform. So all right. Second story, completely different, nothing as sexy as what we just talked about. In fact, it's completely the opposite, the old school world of location. We're talking about satellites and GPS now. So a company called Focal Point has raised £6 million to improve GPS accuracy. And so they describe themselves as a deep tech company. The funding's coming from Draper Esprit. And the company's physically operating, Focal Point that is, operates out of Cambridge and Bristol, England. And its founders are coming out of Cambridge University's Experimental and Theoretical Physics Department. And as well, they've been working with BAE Systems and the European Space Agency. So essentially what this is all about is as we, sort of start to really rely more and more in our world on real-time location data, whether that's for things like Uber or delivering food services or whatever it is, like the need for super accurate, highly precise location data becomes incredibly important because it's about time and money and getting things to the right place as quickly as possible. And so the more accurate you can be, the better. And having the efficiency there. So they say this new technology they've developed can measure the direction of arrival of satellite signals on consumer-grade technology for the very first time, 10 times improvement in accuracy, sensitivity, and integrity of satellite positioning for any device. So that's, 10 times anything when you're talking about satellite positioning. Like on average, a typical sort of GPS satellite from a marketing ad perspective is, you can usually get to about 3 to 4 meters of accuracy on that. We're, with some of the innovations that are coming here, we're talking about, maybe a few centimeters or inches of accuracy, right? So it's all about, how you can get really, really precise on this. And I think as you apply this to the satellite systems we have in our world today, Galileo, GLONASS, Chinese system, Beidou, and so on, this becomes really, really important, especially when you start to think about it in the context of those consumer solutions in the world that we live in, the marketing, activation, business world, let alone the applications for the military side of things, right? And I won't go too much into that. I could go down a rabbit hole there, but I won't right now in terms of what that could mean. But we'll leave it at that. So £6 million for Focal Point from Draper Esprit. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, you know what I find really interesting and like kind of exciting from a location standpoint and the advancements that are happening is that we've been talking a lot about kind of the side of uh you know location data as a whole kind of going away or dwindling down or becoming more and more precious as a good and much more privacy centric and focused. But at the same time, it's exciting to see that there are continuous stories of improvement, right? For accuracy for those applications that really need that. So you think about, tracking certain goods, and whether that's inside of a warehouse or on the road, including autonomous vehicles and all of these different things. And accuracy for just certain applications like Uber and Lyft, right? So like being able to know which door you're coming out of at a hotel and getting better accuracy and refining that. And just a few weeks ago we were talking about Vodafone and how they were improving down to those centimeters with some of the different technologies they're bringing. So I just find it encouraging that there's still development and advancements in this type of technology, even though we're definitely getting more and more privacy focused and privacy centric on the marketing and advertising applications that we're looking at.
There you go. All right, on to our next story.
Yeah, sort of on the same note and kind of thinking still about like navigation or moving. This is a very interesting story for me and kind of exciting as well. As Chipotle has invested in a company called Nuro, and Nuro is a driverless company. And this was part of their Series C funding round. And this is the first, major investment that they've made since their new CEO came on board, or new CEO and chairman came aboard, which is Brian Nickel in 2018. So, in a few years, they haven't really made any big investments in any third-party companies, but Nuro is a company that uses robotics in its fleet of on-road vehicles, autonomous driverless vehicles, to deliver consumer goods. So, they've unveiled two different versions of their autonomous delivery vehicles, including one called an R2. And this was the first driverless vehicle to receive an autonomous vehicle exemption from the federal government, and the first of its kind to drive on public roads in Arizona, California, and Texas. And so I think this is very interesting. When you think about, for example, like Domino's, how Domino's positions itself not necessarily as a pizza company, but as a technology company that happens to make and deliver pizza, right? And how they're investing in that. I love that this is another company, another restaurant, right, that's investing in the technology. I think it's great. They've obviously, from a consumer digital perspective, they have done things like the Grubhubs and the DoorDashes and all of those Uber Eats type of things in those applications, which I think is great. But when you think about longer term, like how do you ensure that one, perhaps you have a bigger piece of that pie when it comes to that cut, and two, like making sure that you can always deliver things safely and contactless, right? So all of those things are very interesting. Also, Nuro had announced previously that they had a partnership with Walmart for autonomous grocery delivery, and they were using both R2 and Toyota Priuses outfitted with this Nuro software. So pretty interesting company, very interesting investment by Chipotle, not something that was super expected, I think, but it does make sense. And I like that there's other restaurants or dining experiences that are thinking about how can they deliver in new ways. So what do you think?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by this story, I guess, and I think it's it definitely for me. I wasn't expecting to see an announcement that Chipotle was investing in a driverless car company, but I mean it makes sense, and I think what it speaks to for me is this kind of growing trend that we see from consumer facing brand companies, both restaurants and retail, to really start to make investments and sort of change their positioning from just a, we're a restaurant, we're a food company, or we're a grocery chain, or we're a, pharmacy or whatever, into we're broader than that. We're making investments, horizontally and vertically within our supply chain and our ecosystems. And we want to be seen as media companies, as sort of more involved in our own ecosystem, and more in control of our supply chain, and the sort of flow of money throughout that sort of economy, if you will, across all of it. So, yeah, and I think part of that is if we wind the clock back, to let's say around somewhere around 2015 ish. There was all that conversation from Walmart and the big retailers about creating their own uh, payment platforms and payment exchanges and MCX and all that stuff we talked about back in those days. Because they felt like if they could create a coalition of retailers, and have their own payment network, they could save money by not, having the huge fees that they're paying to the credit card companies and whatnot. And in some ways, I see some parallels here because, we know how much the Uber Eatses and the Skip the Dishes and the DoorDashes and all these kinds of companies are, taking out of, sort of the value part of that ecosystem, and how much cost it adds to the consumer. And so if you can kind of bring that down and own it yourself as a restaurant company, I think there's a lot to be said for that, right? And we've seen with Walgreens and CVS on the retail side, for example, where they're now positioning themselves as media companies, selling advertising space and selling all sorts of things online and in store and whatnot. They're not just selling you drugs, or medical devices or whatever. They're selling you everything now. Like, they're a full-on media company, as Walmart has been for a long time. Um, so I like this story from that point of view, and I think getting into sort of the delivery driver, whether it's driverless or not, side of things, I think makes a ton of sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, final story. Sort of staying in the retail sector now. Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon, has tapped into the AR cosmetics try-on space. So there's a company out there called Perfect Corp. We've talked about these guys a lot over the last couple of years. And they're known for a product called UCAM, which is a augmented reality based solution for letting you try on makeup and cosmetics. And they originally started a few years ago with these sort of mirrors that they had in Sephora stores and things like that, that you could try on stuff and whatnot. What's really weird to me about this story, and I don't think it's bad that they're doing this, but I think it's strange because I don't think about, and I'm not in this space. Aubriana, you're going to have to help me out here, but I don't think about women going to buy makeup, thinking Whole Foods is the place that they do that. I don't know. Am I off base here?
I think in general, it's not like a makeup enthusiast or somebody who really enjoys like trying different things, in the cosmetic arena, typically is probably going to choose like Sephora or maybe even Ulta over a Whole Foods. However, I will say that I think the shopper that is in Whole Foods buying makeup is a very specific shopper. So they're looking for something that is organic, that is, free of a lot of the extra chemicals and things that a lot of our cosmetics here in the States are, have. So like I read this crazy statistic that, for example, in I think in either UK or just the EU as a whole, there's like 1,400 banned substances from cosmetics of things that women can put on their face. Here in the US, there's like 8. Okay. So we just don't really care about, anything, or we just know that it causes cancer, and cancer is such a money-making business that they're just going to keep letting people put that in there. I don't know what it is, but regardless, there's a lot of bad things that are in skincare out there, and just, beauty tools as well. So I think those who are more concerned with that are going to take the Whole Foods approach, which to me is like, this is tailored to a very specific buyer. It's not the one who's like looking to try all the new trends. It's something who's saying, oh, what's in that my perspective.
Yeah, yeah, and I can totally buy that. And I think, yeah, if you're going after that certain segment of shopper that's in Whole Foods, that makes sense to me. And just to be clear, so this partnership in this sort of test that they're doing with this technology, the cosmetics company that's involved is called Mineral Fusion. Sorry, I had to pull it off there. Mineral Fusion. So I don't know a lot about them, but I'm assuming it's organic or natural in some way. To your comments, and I guess for me, the big part of this story that makes perfect sense is in a COVID era where we are contactless and touch free and everything else. Where you don't want to go pick up the sample, the actual lipstick sampler or whatever that they used to have out and put it on, because you got to touch something everybody else has touched, and you're applying that to your lips or whatever. To do that virtually in augmented reality makes 100% sense to me. So I'm all over that part of it, and I think this new way of product sampling and so on in a COVID world is right on track. So I applaud that effort. I don't know. I can't comment on the sort of synergies between Whole Foods and Mineral Fusion. I'm assuming they're great, and it's what that shopper is looking for. But I think the use of the technology here makes a ton of sense to me. So I like it.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And for the record, I think that trying on makeup pre-COVID in any of those situations was still a gross thing.
There you go. All right. So you've heard it all here today. 4 stories that we walked you through. A range of things in there. Some funding, some new GPS accuracy, some retail
Phone
innovation.
call.
What's that?
A phone call.
A phone call. Yeah. But we thank you, anyways, for tuning in and listening and watching every single week. This has been episode 510 of Location Weekly. Of course, we'll be back next week with yet another show. And if you have story ideas, reach out to us or give us, some comments, some likes, some love, some criticism, some feedback, whatever it is you got for us. We want it. We're easily found on all the social media channels, and we just thank you. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks.